Derrick Rose drops 50 points on the Utah Jazz in 2018. Might I add, what is going on, y'all? 5 Sports Talk back at it with another video talking, of course, some NBA. Here to talk about one Derrick Rose, who, if you have not heard, has dropped 50 points on the Utah Jazz, unless you've been living under a rock, because it's the best story in sports right now. And I'm here to talk about it. Of course, I wanted to get this a little earlier, but I've been so busy, guys. But again, better late than never, right? So I wanted to talk about it. It's D Rose. Come on now. You guys know how to talk about my boy D Rose dropping a 50 piece on the Utah Jazz. And let's talk about, you know, the performance itself, where it ranks in terms of Derrick Rose's entire career. Let's talk about Derrick Rose's career and the ups and downs that this man has been through, the trials and tribulations of one Derrick Rose. Boy, it was spectacular and just jaw-dropping to see that perform. So let's start off talking about the stat line real quick. 50 points, of course, for Derrick Rose. 4 rebounds, 6 assists. He's been very good with the peripheral stats this season, averaging, you know, about 5 and 5 in terms of rebounds and assists. So that's been a pleasant surprise to see here. This obviously brings up his scoring average a lot, I believe, to about 18 points a game. But 50 points, 19 for 31 from the field, 8 for 11 from the free throw line, 4 for 7 from 3, 2 steals, and 1 crucial block. And, of course, the dub, the win against a very, very good Utah Jazz team. When you're down 2 starters in Jimmy Butler and Jeff Teague, and you're down your backup point guard in Tyus Jones, Derrick Rose was the engine for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And albeit it may be for one night, but what a spectacular night that was. The Jazz could not do anything with Derrick Rose. He was hitting the mid-range. He was getting to the bucket. And it was Halloween night, so it felt like D Rose was the 2012-2011 Derrick Rose, MVP Derrick Rose himself that night. So it was spectacular to see, folks, the performance that he put on. This is his career high in points. Mind you, Derrick Rose has been an MVP and a perennial all-star in this league, okay? And this was his career high in points. The previous high was 44 points, obviously when he was a Chicago Bull against the Atlanta Hawks, I believe in the playoffs. I believe it was the second round of the playoffs, because I remember watching that performance. So that was his previous career high, and he beat that to get to 50 points. So one of the best stories in sports, folks. This is a guy who I have followed his entire career, since the second he got drafted to the second the Bulls traded him to the New York Knicks. I've watched every single play, I believe, of Derrick Rose's career. And let me just tell you, there have been a lot of ups and downs, but a lot of people would have folded with the sort of trials and tribulations that Derrick Rose was put through. A lot of players would have just called it quits. A lot of players would have just taken what they would have gotten and just moved on. Not this man. This man was on his way out of the league, and he fought himself back. You heard him in the post-game interview. You know, I worked my you-know-what off, and boy, did he work his you-know-what off, because, like I said, we're talking about an ACL tear in the prime of his career. We're talking about 2 meniscus tears. So, folks, just imagine you tear your ACL when your team is a championship contender. In the first round of the playoffs, you were projected to actually even win the championship that year, and you tear your ACL, and then the year after, you come back after a grueling long summer of rehab and everything else. You come back, and just a month into the season, you tear your meniscus. And then you're ruled out again for the entire season. And then you rehab again, and you come back again, and you tear your meniscus again in the same knee. Just think about the impact that would have. Forget about, obviously, on your knees, because that's obviously, you know, obvious. But think about the mental impact and the mental fortitude you have to come back from that, to come back and even step foot on the court and be like, okay, am I going to tear something again? That's what Derrick Rose went through. That's what this man went through in his career. Not to mention, obviously, other injuries, of course, you know, like the hamstring, elbow, hip, whatever else. These are just the major knee injuries that I'm talking about. But boy, it takes a lot of mental strength to be able to come back from that. A lot of people think it's just physical. No, folks, it's mental as well. It's up there. And Derrick Rose, what a beautiful night for him. What a beautiful story. So he gets traded, obviously, from the Chicago Bulls to the New York Knicks, plays for the Knicks for a year. They decide not to re-sign him, and then he basically can't find a team. He has to join his arch nemesis in LeBron James, who he went up against for 4 or 5 years in the peak of his career, who the man who beat Derrick Rose. He has to join him on a bench role, on a minimum salary contract. Keep in mind, there's a player who is getting a max deal with the Chicago Bulls, and you have to do that, and then you get traded and cut by the Utah Jazz. They waive him. Funny enough, he dropped the career high against the Utah Jazz. You get cut by the Jazz. You're out of a job for a month, and you finally get an opportunity with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I know Thibodeau, his old coach, was sort of the main reason he got the opportunity, but the fact that he got an opportunity, worked his way back into the game, because at that point, after Derrick Rose got traded to the Utah Jazz and got waived, most guys would have just called it quits. Most guys would have said, all right, that's it. I had a good run. I tried. My knees are shot. I'm done. I got nothing left. Not D Rose. And that's the beautiful part about it, folks. So obviously, it was great to see, and I really, really hope Derrick Rose continues this strong play. This is not just obviously the first time he's played well this season. He's had a 28-point game. He's had some very good performances, and he's looked, for the most part, very good with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously, we know the whole Jimmy Butler situation with that team, but if Jimmy Butler does, or I shouldn't say if, when Jimmy Butler does get traded, Derrick Rose is going to be thrust into that, I believe, the starting 2 spot, and he could thrive all year long. So I'm excited to see that. It's just a feel-good story, and I love it, folks. So let me know what you guys think. What did you guys think about Derrick Rose dropping 50 points? I think it's one of the best stories of the year, and I think that's what sports is all about. This moment was why I love sports, why you guys love sports, and why we all should like it, and why we really do like it is because of moments like these. You see a guy who worked his tail off to come back and put on a show and had the performance of a lifetime. It was just spectacular, folks. Again, I hope you appreciate, you know, the analysis in the comments, but more than anything, I hope you appreciate D Rose like I do. I'm still a fan. D Rose, I miss you, boy. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching.